Hi, hello, this is Kaz and Risk, and welcome to the second Patreon-exclusive episode of Koppai Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kaz and Risk, joined alongside Mr. Koppai himself, my brother, Zach Risk.
Yeah!
Hey, listen! Get it? In case you haven't noticed, this Patreon exclusive number 2 is dedicated to the 30th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. And if you are a supporter on our Patreon for 99 cents or above, you should be able to be listening to this. And if you are listening to this and you don't support us on Patreon, that means someone gave you the unlisted link to the YouTube page, which is really uncool because that means you get to listen to this without paying us and supporting us, which, I mean, I guess is fine because we just appreciate that you're able to listen to it. But come on, give us the $1 over on patreon.com/Koppai Productions. But if you are listening, more than likely you know the rigmarole of what Koppai Podcast, Koppai Productions, Koppai Media is. That we create podcasts each and every week. But you know the whole rigmarole. You know who we are. You know our deepest and darkest secrets. You know our Twitters. You are a supporter and a loyal member of the Koppai Nation. And so I think that being said, we can just go ahead into it. Zach.
Yes.
It is the 30th year that little Link has been wandering around in Hyrule, and Termina and Histopia and the Great Seas and
Low
I'm trying to
Rule?
Low Rule, yep. And I'm trying to think of where else. I know I thought there was a place in the Minish Cap that was different. I thought that was a different name. Maybe it is usually just Hyrule. I think I know I'm missing one for sure though.
Yeah.
I'm confident I am. Cause Twilight Princess, or I guess Skyward Sword is the skies. And Link to the Past and all that beyond is Hyrule. So for 30 years, little Link, not Zelda. Well, Zelda has been too, but little Link, little green man in a hero's tunic, has been wandering around Hyrule and everywhere else, trying to be the hero. And we thought we would look back and have a few points of discussion I thought would be good. I'm going to move my microphone here, so if there's a little bit of warble, I'm sorry. But I thought we could look back on just the Zelda franchise through maybe a more critical eye, through a retrospective eye, looking back, kind of like we did with our Pokemon discussion, where we went back to the series. But different from our Pokemon discussion, we kind of talked about maybe like our favorite experiences and stuff with Pokemon. But I would like to, in this Zelda discussion, maybe try to pinpoint each of our favorite Zelda entry. And there's a few I've missed or haven't like completely beaten. There's a few that you haven't completely beaten, so I mean, those obviously won't be included in your discussion, but you don't have to mention those. You can just mention the ones that you have beat, or the one that really caught your eye, or even if you haven't completely finished it, just the ones that you really enjoyed. And then I also thought we could maybe look ahead at Zelda U and our speculation for that, and then also if there's any sort of gap that needs to be filled, we could talk about how maybe Nintendo has been celebrating the 30th anniversary. If we like it, if we don't like it. It's a little early on in the year to completely decide, but I don't know, compared to like the Pokemon 20th anniversary, which is celebrated quite a bit and done quite a lot, we could talk about maybe what we'd like to see, or what we've seen so far of Zelda Celebration. So does that sound good?
Yep, sounds perfect.
How you doing? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Doing great? Yeah, I just showered and had a pizza. I didn't have the pizza in the shower, but it was good. So
yeah, I just had lunch as well. Been doing some homework actually too. It's one of those busy homework days for me. So
Sundays.
Yeah, but yesterday I did play a lot of Twilight Princess HD, and I'm hoping, because right before we started recording the podcast, I tried to get a lot of my homework done, and I just have to do like a test, and then hopefully can just dive back into Twilight for an hour or two.
Yeah, I did a little bit of Triforce Heroes last night.
How was that?
Fun. Finally, yeah, we can talk about it a little later, but my first impressions are, because we've been very, not like against it in the past on the podcast. I mean, we're Nintendo fanboys and stuff, so we always give them the benefit of the doubt, but we were always kind of like, why is Triforce Heroes a thing? And I think we both wished it would have gone in a different direction. It's more of a Link Between Worlds Part 2 or something, or use the engine in a better sort of way besides this kind of forced multiplayer thing. And I haven't gotten to the actual like dungeons or puzzles yet in the game. and so I can't speak for those, which is kind of a bummer because I wish I could have maybe figured out how like the whole totem thing works and stuff. But I mean, my initial impressions are it's very silly
Yeah.
and very wacky for a Zelda game, which I mean, Zelda has always had that kind of wacky charm to it, especially like in the later games with like Tingle and just Beetle and all of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very much so milking the whole. This is a crazy, wacky experience that I mean is even weird to consider in the core Zelda franchise, and it's also very, very beautiful, very reminiscent, I think, of Pokemon XY
Mhm.
because
The
it's like
fashion and stuff.
yeah, it takes place in Histopia or Hystopia, or however you'd say that, and it's all French. People are speaking in French, and they have like
Hmm.
these kind of French terms.
Yeah.
It's all about like you walk in and you're wearing like just like a T-shirt, and they're like, "You look ridiculous here. Put on these nice green clothes and be fashionable." So you put on the hero's tunic and stuff, and they're always talking about like how you just need to be more fashionable, and people are like disgusted by your apparel, and it's just like I don't know, very very like very weird to have like I mean almost like word for word some stuff it seemed like from Pokemon X and Y and stuff, and it's like the main villain and stuff is someone that makes your clothes like look drab, and the princess of the land was the most prettiest and fashionable of them all, and so it's just
Hmm.
a really weird theme I thought, but no, I
Yeah.
mean because of all of that, it looks beautiful, very very colorful, lots of attention to detail. The outfits and the character designs are all very memorable and very stylish.
Does it look better than A Link Between Worlds, you think?
I
Or
yeah,
is
I
it
think so.
okay?
I think it takes that engine, refines it a little bit, adds in a lot of charm and a lot of color, and I
Hmm.
also love the character model of Link a lot more because
Yeah.
in a
It's
Link
more Wind
Between
Waker,
Worlds,
isn't it?
yeah, it's like Toon Link basically.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I think it's actually almost exactly like Toon Link.
Yeah. I thought
Um,
I'd seen a blow up of it, and it looked a little because I was like, what is this like? It's like Toon Link, but it's kind of a lower resolution looking one. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably the Triforce Heroes Toon Link or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's even when you go into the castle in the very beginning, the only way you can get into the castle is you have to be like fashionable.
Yeah.
Um, and you walk into the castle and they're like, oh, you have like they're kind of making fun of the Zelda tropes. They're like, oh, you have suave hair, pointy ears, and killer sideburns. You're in. And it's just like because you kind of fit into like that stereotypical hero of time sort of look.
Yeah.
And so they go in, and then it looks like the character model from A Link Between Worlds standing next to the castle.
Hmm.
And they're like, "What? You're letting him in, but not me in? Like, what in the world? Let me in! I look exactly like the hero and stuff." And they're like, "No, no, no, man! Like, what's up with your pink hair and stuff?" Because it's like the Link Between Past or Between Worlds sort of link. And so I was wondering if they were kind of calling out the negative reception of
Yeah,
that link
possibly.
because I think a lot of people didn't like that style.
Yeah.
At least I know they like A Link to the Past, but I don't think they like A Link Between Worlds. But yeah, that's kind of a nice little callback to the original Zelda. We can go back there, and I don't think did you ever end up beating the original Zelda?
I got super far into it actually. I think I got about 6 dungeons in, almost to the end. But then um, it was either 5 or 6 dungeons in, and there's that bracelet, the hero bracelet or whatever. And for
Hmm.
some reason, I just could not find it. Searched everywhere, and I even was like using walkthroughs. And for some reason, when I'd use the walkthrough, a couple times it seemed it was like mirrored or something. The version I was playing, I wasn't sure exactly what the walkthroughs were leading me the wrong direction, and I could not find that bracelet and eventually just gave up on it. But it was such a good game. I was so
Yeah,
surprised that when I mean, I played it a million times probably over the history of playing video games, and it's
yeah.
always one of those that you just kind of jump into for a bit and go
I have no
back and
idea what you're
forth on
doing.
the maps, and it's yeah, super simple and not very much explanation of what you're supposed to be doing. But then once I think it's a perfect game for like if you were at the age when NES first came out, and if you were like our age now, or even like an older teen or something that had played that game, I think that when we were first playing it a lot growing up, it was we were a little too young, but then once you kind of understand how open world games work, or if your brain's a little more open to figuring out puzzles or more
Hmm.
patient to sit down with it for a little bit longer, you start to see how rewarding it actually is and how huge and deep and some of the crazy advanced mechanics for the time, and how like the graphics look really simple and basic on the surface, but then as you get deeper into it, it's like some really impressive Zelda stuff and the foundation of where it eventually went.
Yeah.
So I thought at least getting to the point that I got in the game, I'd love to eventually go and completely finish it. I'll probably like buy it on the virtual console sometime.
Yeah.
And they just had that for the 30th anniversary. That 3D version came out, which unfortunately and understandably Nintendo did take down. But
Yeah.
I did go
Yeah, it
through
always
that.
makes me mad when people are like, "Oh, Nintendo's so evil for taking it down." It's like, do you realize that like someone just basically put out their game for free, like
Yeah,
complete copyright and stuff? Like, of course they're gonna take it down. Like, they're not like against art. They're just. I
yeah.
thought
I
that
was
that's their.
hoping, hopefully they were pretty impressed by it because it was a really cool thing, and they really should
Yeah.
take the idea. And it made me think about. I really wish they would have done it for the 3DS, taken more advantage of NES games like that, and done something
Hmm.
along those lines. But that was really fun to go through that first dungeon in 3D and just see how pretty that game is and the sprites, and when you add just a couple lighting effects, how it changes it a lot. And I don't know, it's just I love that first Zelda game. It's really great, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can find that bracelet one time and finish it. So,
Yeah. I remember because I'm in the same boat where I mean I played a lot growing up and it was always like whoa this is the first like because we had started I would assume probably with Ocarina of Time, and so for us those kind of classic NES and like A Link to the Past and stuff were always like like super retro Zelda games like
yeah,
well this is I mean for our childish minds like whoa this is the origin or like this is the first Ocarina of Time game like
yeah,
it was kind of more so that perspective and it was very much so oh whoa this is the first one oh dang this sucks because it's like
right,
this isn't nearly as good as Ocarina of Time but I mean when you think about it now and what people look back on going forward like it's going to be an interesting thing of like kind of the study of video game history and video game culture. It really is though I mean Ocarina of Time if Ocarina of Time was sprite based on the NES it's you start off and there's the open world and it's all of Hyrule to explore there and you have to go into caves and go into places and go in and find the stuff and
hmm
I mean there's obviously a little bit more explanation in Ocarina of Time of what you necessarily need to do and every time someone says like man I wish you could get through here with a hero's sword and hero's sword is in all different
right,
letters and
yeah,
numbers or colors and stuff. I mean,
hmm
they do a little bit better about that now, but I mean, it still very much so was like the same sense and the same scale of adventure that they still have today.
yeah,
And what Zelda, I mean, moving forward, like what Zelda U and Zelda NX is probably going to be known for. It's just like the open world thing, and it'll be nice to see them return to form with that. But yeah, moving. I mean, there's a lot. I think we could have like maybe a whole discussion on the original Zelda and the impacts that it has and the just the coolness and the little tricks and stuff. I know when I played it, I went to I think a cave and there's like an old lady in there, and
yeah,
she was like, "Give me 50 rupees and I'll give you something cool, or I'll tell you a secret." And I'm like. I need all the help I can get right now because I
yeah,
was very much so playing it like I'm not going to use a guide. I'm going to play it as if I was a kid in 1980,
uh
like
huh,
80, whatever. Um, and so I'm gonna play it without any guide, so I'm like, oh, cool. She'll probably tell me like the first place I need to go to,
right,
and so I go and I'm hacking down like Deku's and the little monster guys and or the moblins and the whacking bushes and stuff, and just doing all sorts of like moves to get these rupees. And it took me like probably like an hour or so to get 50 rupees saved up. And I mean, I'm in my dorm room, and it was actually a really cool feeling to be like that kind of open world wonder of like I can go anywhere and do anything. And right now, my own personal goal is to get 50 rupees.
uh huh,
And I was playing with the Wiimote that was like tilted on its side, so it felt like a NES controller.
right,
Um, and I was playing through, and I got 50 rupees. I went back in the cave and I gave them to her, and I'm like walking in, all right, here you go, like
yeah,
covered in blood and stuff. And she was like, all right, here's the secret.
little sack of
Don't
coins.
yeah, like no, yeah, don't trust old ladies. And I was like, what? Like that was, and like she took all my money, and I talked to her again, and she was like just laughing or something, and I'm like, I couldn't get the money back, and I felt so betrayed. Like I just wasted like 2 hours of my life. And I think I like turned off the game. I was like, whatever. Like that's stupid. Like I'm done with this game. And
You
I don't
just
think I
take
ever
out
went.
your sword. You're like walking out, and you can see her in the background, just like laying there on the floor, like blood coming out. You're like,
Yeah, I got
never,
like 50
never
rupees.
again.
Like just like kind of like throwing the sack up in the air and catching it. But
Got your
yeah,
money
no. So
back.
I would love to go back to that game.
Yeah,
I'm really excited with the Virtual Console and the 3DS to maybe play more games that way, like those old NES games. But
yeah. What's another cool thing about it is that, um, and I was reminded about this when the 30th anniversary 3D version came out. Is just that it's kind of like Super Mario Bros. In where the newer ones, especially you'd say even like Galaxy, and then when you get to like Twilight Princess and stuff, these newer ones, they're trying to pack a whole bunch in 3D worlds
mhm.
and make it longer and longer. But like the classic ones like Super Mario Bros. And even the first Legend of Zelda are really good games to almost speed run through, or
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
can
say
go
that.
through
Yeah.
in like just an afternoon, or just go through the first few dungeons. And that's really a cool aspect of it that is kind of lost nowadays.
Yeah,
That
because back then, I mean, it's a new way of doing things now. Where like back in the day, they wanted to give you your value for the game and make you be able to replay it by having it be somewhat difficult, and then also, like you said, just really fun to speed run. Like Mega Man, for example, was,
right.
I mean, arguably kind of short. Like you can beat that game in an hour, 2 hours, maybe
Uh-huh.
tops. Um, but I mean, to get to that level of doing that takes hours and hours and hours and hours. And
Yeah.
same with Super Mario and all of that. Like you can beat those games in 10, 20 minutes sometimes if you know where to go and how to do it.
Yeah.
But to get to that level and to get to the point where you can beat all 8 worlds and all the levels and do it twice and stuff flawlessly takes a while. And they still do that nowadays with the games, but now it's more so multiplayer based where
Yeah.
you could beat like with Call of Duty, for example, you can beat the campaign in an hour or so, but to really get to the point of like being a master of the game via online modes, that's where it really like drives home the value. And so it's interesting to see, yeah, like how they're trying to change that with like more single player games. Unfortunately, Nintendo's kind of keeping around both that aspect of like a single player awesome long adventure and also like we mentioned on episode 17 of Koppai, the idea of couch co-op.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully Nintendo, as much people as insist that they get with the times and kind of conform to the other popular things going on, hopefully they don't abandon stuff like that because it's been really awesome to see kind of that same feeling and same like kind of like we've been talking about like that same kind of neuro just the senses and the pleasure that the dopamine's able to release in us through
Uh-huh.
Nintendo's formula. But moving forward, I don't have too much to say about The Legend of Zelda 2. I don't know if you do, if you've played much of that. I know like the memes. I've played it. I've
Yeah.
when I worked at Barnes and Noble, what was it 2 summers ago?
Mhm.
Um, I had that job to pay rent, and it was kind of like an interesting thing where all my other expenses were pretty much covered. So all I really needed to do was pay rent. And so I got a job, and they scheduled me for like 35 hours. But really, all I needed was like 15 hours a week to pay for my rent in the college apartment that I had. And so every week I had like an extra $200,
Uh-huh.
and I just like went on the eShop and just bought every game I could.
Yeah.
And I remember like sending you pictures and stuff. I think on Facebook where it was like, look at my new catalog of games, and it
Yeah,
was
you'd
just
have
like,
like folders set up, and it was like
yeah.
Mario.
And so and like I just like went through and like I mean I was so happy because for the first half of the summer I didn't have a job and so I was like behind on rent payments and dad was helping me out
Mhm.
and then I paid him back like with the when I got the Barnes and Noble job and then I was just like rolling cash so I went and got Mario Kart 8 that summer and was like finally I can play Mario Kart 8 and I remember it being such a mystery to me like I had just been playing the Wii games and stuff and it was just
Yeah.
like finally I can join in on this like awesome adventure and I think that I don't know that wasn't the same summer as Splatoon but yeah, I got so many of those, and I went through and played every single one that I had. I opened up the like at least like the first level of each just to check them out, the Virtual
Right.
Console games. And so I did play a little bit of The Legend of Zelda 2, and it was very much so different
Uh-huh.
than the original and what I knew to like came to expect and
Yeah,
stuff.
radically different.
Yeah, and so did you have many thoughts on that? Because you really went into those, I mean, at least the original, and I thought you had gone into the second one.
Um,
But
well, that was my plan, was I was going to just start at the beginning, I think, and work my way back through them.
mhm.
Uh, but Legend of Zelda 2, I never, because I stopped my experience with the first one of actually going through it all at like Dungeon 5 or 6, when I never really made it to Legend of Zelda 2, but I have played it in the past, just going in and checking out and walking around a bit. I have never really got too far into it, actually, like where
Hmm.
I feel like I've gotten a decent start and I'm like into the story
Yeah.
and kind of getting my feet wet in it. But um, I've always wanted to. I've watched some speed runs of it and just saw like the skill involved in some of the later parts where uh, there's some really ridiculous enemies that you have to get through and some really precision moves and hack and slash stuff. That kind of
Yeah.
became popular later on and. Uh, so it looks like a really fun, challenging game. It doesn't look like a bad game at all, despite it being like really different from all the games before and after in a lot of ways. Although in a lot of ways, it also still seems to have a lot of the Zelda traditional elements to it. So
Hmm.
it's definitely one I want to go back and visit. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't really, like you, haven't really got too far in depth into it ever.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those games I really want to go back and visit. Especially, there's lots of games I want to revisit now after platinuming and completely 100%ing Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Because
And that's very
Shovel,
similar, it seems, in
yeah,
like aesthetics and style and all that.
yeah, that whole kind. Because it's kind of like that Mega Man platforming, but then the Zelda 2 kind of hack and slash with the shovel and the pogo stick. But then like the Scrooge McDuck sort of thing. I mean, so lots of like those classic games all thrown into one. But I mean, yeah, like you said, the combat really takes a lot of inspiration from Zelda 2, and I
Yeah.
loved it. Like it was so fluid, so fun, so addictive, so nice to like learn how to do cool stuff. Like we could jump in the air and then like slash that guy, turn around, slash that guy, turn around, like, and
Uh-huh.
just like do these kind of like just really just epic feeling moves in the air.
Yeah.
And so I want to get back to Zelda 2 for that, but yeah, it's just unfortunate because it's always like I don't know, so many games to play and the Zelda adventures just take such a commitment almost.
Yeah, they
and so
do.
like and I don't it's not a game like with Mario for example, like where you can pick up or Super Mario Bros or Super Mario World
Hmm.
and play through that and get some nice fixes in and feel like you've had a pretty good experience and go all the way in or stop and then be like, "Oh yeah, I'm World 3 in Super Mario World right now. I'm going to go in, and pick it up where I left off and stuff." But with Zelda, you kind of have to stick with that one game for a while. And so it's a little bit harder to kind of just tackle all of them in pieces because you need to really commit and stuff. But moving forward, so we have time to discuss all these Zelda games and then some of the other, like our favorites and Zelda U speculation. I'm gonna kind of clump together A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, Oracle of Ages, Seasons, and kind of what those kind of like top-down overworld Zelda games that kind of came after, like what became the standard after Zelda 2,
Uh-huh.
because A Link to the Past definitely like established like this is Zelda moving forward until Ocarina of Time came on. But even then, like even though Ocarina of Time came and that became like the 3D Zelda, we still have the 2D Zeldas, which is once again established in A Link to the Past, and so it's like the Super Mario world of Zelda, which we still see today. And so, A Link to the Past, I don't think completely beat. I've gotten pretty far in it, but I haven't
Hmm.
completely beat it. Oracle of Seasons, I've beat. I think you beat Oracle of
Nope,
Ages.
never did.
You never did? I thought. Are
No,
you sure?
I've gotten really far into it. I've gotten really far into both of them. I think ages.
Because we had those when we were kids, though. I thought you
Yeah,
beat
yeah. Well, I
Ages.
never actually completely beat it. No, but
Oh, okay.
we did have, I think, like the walkthroughs for it and stuff, and we got. I know I got super far into it, but
Yeah, I love those
never.
games. That was
Yeah,
and like that was kind of like that whole Pokemon Red and Blue thing where it's like
yeah.
you had Ages, I believe.
I have them on my 3DS now, and I've recently actually restarted, I think, Seasons,
Okay.
and was gonna play through that, and I was just inspired to play like a little bit of it every night, and haven't really stuck to that because I got really engrossed into Twilight, and my just whole plan, like we say with Zelda games, kind of taking a lot of commitment and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
your time. It's just difficult for me to try to do little bits at a time, and even with Twilight, I had to go back because I took several days off and I had to like read the script for it of up to where I'd been just to kind of refresh like all of the
Yeah.
story that was going on because it's I just don't want to miss and feel
Yeah.
lost and just go in completing missions without following my purpose and the story and everything.
Yeah,
So,
it's very much like an overarching theme in a Zelda game. Like it's not
yeah.
just like yeah, like you said, quests or something where it's just
Hmm.
like you could just kind of figure out the world and stuff. Like now it's one adventure. But yeah, and then there's also like a link between worlds and now Triforce Heroes and stuff like that. And I suppose we could kind of maybe briefly touch on like Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, although I don't think I've played. Maybe I've played briefly Spirit Tracks, and I know
Yeah.
I got super far in Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, that was around
Um,
the time when I didn't really have a DS, and I really didn't hop on the DS train until pretty late and never really got into kind of the Zelda games of that era on
yeah,
that console.
I think that was like kind of maybe not a lot of the same people's boat or whatever, but I think it was. Um, yeah, I know like when you hear people talk about like Zelda Online, like yeah, a lot of people don't reference Spirit Tracks, or if they do, that's very much so like man, like how come everyone forgets about Spirit Tracks and
Yeah.
stuff, and how come they forget about Phantom Hourglass? And the reason
Hmm.
people forget about Phantom Hourglass is because just the touch controls are super
Yeah, I was about to
weird
say
for
that.
weird for a Zelda game. Although Spirit Tracks is such a cool concept of basically really moving the Zelda story away from Hyrule, which there it is. That was the place I was thinking of from the very beginning of our conversation. Is Spirit Tracks, I believe, is like establishing a basically new Hyrule.
Hmm.
And so, which is the whole point of like laying down train tracks and going somewhere else and being new. And I really, really want to play that for the sake of that part of the story. But yeah, we could maybe talk about. I mean, because we've had experience in these overworld or like top-down view Zeldas and stuff, and we'll get to Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess and that whole trilogy soon. But I mean, do you have anything you want to share from these over top-down view Zeldas, or one that sticks out to you as a definitive experience, or
I think that probably A Link to the Past is the definitive experience, like Super Mario World is, like you
Mhm.
said, and um, A Link Between Worlds is really really fun, and that's the one that I've actually completed to the end. I really need to go back and completely finish A Link to the Past, which I plan on doing someday. Uh, I want to do with also like Link's Awakening, and I want to play all the Zelda games eventually. But I really love the style, and I think it works great on a handheld system
Mhm.
and is perfect for that moving forward. And hopefully, they continue to make games in that style because I'm not one of those that is just like all 3D all the way. I really appreciate that style, and I was actually kind of thinking about this in our discussion earlier about how you say we kind of jumped on with Ocarina of Time, and while we did have Super Nintendo, we mostly had games like Mario and Yoshi's Island and
Yeah,
things like that. Pilot Wings we didn't have. We weren't also like going out and buying a lot of games all the time. We had kind of our selection of games that we had, and maybe getting a new game it wasn't like
yeah,
an every
it was very
week
much so.
occasion.
Yeah, like Dad would just go out and honestly, Dad probably got the games that he was also somewhat interested in, like, because
Yeah,
I know like he liked playing the Mario games and stuff, and so he was probably very much so like if I'm gonna buy these games for the kids, like I want
right.
to play them too.
Yeah,
And
well,
he was never one for like long drawn out adventures like a
yeah,
Zelda
that's
game. He
yeah,
was very much
definitely.
so like he loved Grand Theft Auto 3 because he could
Hmm.
pick up, go out, kill someone, be done with the mission.
Yeah,
You know, like that was it. Like he had
yeah,
his goal, he had his objective,
uh-huh.
and so
And yeah,
that
well,
makes sense. Yeah.
and my point with that is that I was just kind of thinking about how we jumped onto the Zelda train more with Ocarina of Time, and I was thinking about like what if we had jumped in Mario with Mario 64, and then looking back at Super Mario World and the 2D ones as kind of the A Link to the Past,
Hmm.
going back in time, taking a step back. And it's interesting how I think Super Mario 64 was a much more radical change for Mario's format, and even today when we get new games in like the Sunshine and Galaxy, it's a really different experience than the traditional 2D games, which is why they brought those back. And it's also I mean, I do think there's some difference between them, but I think it's kind of cool how Zelda really, when it moved to the 3D space, it kept its formula very much intact in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, a lot more so than the jump from Mario to 3D. And so that's one of the really cool things is that when you play like A Link to the Past, you can really see how and even the first Zelda, how it's still that same basic formula,
Hmm.
just repeated and improved upon and expanded. And so that's really cool, and I think it makes them not feel as dated and as foreign when you go back to play them.
Yeah,
As playing.
it's like just a new puzzle and stuff.
Yeah,
Like you have a jigsaw puzzle, and every time you pick up a jigsaw puzzle, it's essentially the same thing, but it's always a fresh new experience because the pieces are different, the image
right.
is different, the theme is different, and it's kind of Zelda's like very much the same way, where it's always the same puzzle. It's always move this
Yeah.
block here, attach this here,
Mhm.
lower the water, raise the water. I mean, all those things and stuff, and different kind of things to make your mind work. But it's the packaging that's always different,
Yeah.
and always like a lot of the appeal of it and stuff. And yeah, I love the top down. I mean, A Link Between Worlds. I remember playing that. I had started A Link Between Worlds. I don't. I mean, I think just like in my dorm or something, or in my apartment, and then I was heading back home for a break of some sort, I believe. And the drive home is about an 8 hour, or the bus ride. I think I may have been on. When it's a bus ride back home, it's about 15 hours, so really long bus ride. And so I think I had been playing it on one of those trips, and I beat it completely on the trip, and or at least finished it off on the trip. And I remember finishing it and just kind of like looking around, like, what in the world? Like, that was like one of the greatest Zelda experiences I had had, because it just seemed so fluid and fun, and the world was engaging. I loved the just different approaches to it and stuff.
Mhm.
And my biggest complaint though was, yeah, I wish, and it kind of speaks for Nintendo as a whole. It's weird to see that we talk about Link to the Past being Super Mario World, basically, like as far as like just if there's a parallel, to that. They're the beautiful sprites and the revolution of the SNES, and then they both went on to be 3D and kind of never completely went back to that. And it's sad to see that like a link. I mean, I wonder if a Link Between Worlds would have been like a 10 out of 10 game if it had been sprite work. And you also look, I mean, some other like you look at the kind of maybe some people not being completely accepting of the new Super Mario Brothers
Yeah.
games. If those were like sprites, like Shovel Knight or something, like
Mhm. Yeah.
where you have a game like Shovel Knight that's sprite work, but it's also HD and crisp and gorgeous, or even Super Mario Maker, where it's like Super Mario World on Super Mario Maker with the shadows and the
Yeah.
HD and all that. It's just like absolutely insane. And so it's sad that we kind of don't have those eras anymore of like Nintendo doing pixel art, because it's just like,
Yeah.
what could they do with that? Like if they had some sort of pixel art game coming forward, like on the NX,
Mhm.
like it seems ironic, and people will joke like, oh, this is what the NX does, it's pixel art and stuff. But it's just like the amount of stuff you can do with that, especially with modern day technology, is so gorgeous. But
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about how when Disney left their whole doing the animation, 2D
yeah,
animation versus now doing everything in like these elaborate 3D CGI animation, and how if I really wish sometime that they'd just kind of bring back that Lion King, Aladdin style
hmm,
of animation just for the future and for the new technology, and see how they can do the crazy things where they apply some of the new CGI things to the old school methods and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's kind of cool how, like, I guess NES Remix, some of the fusion that they do in that of the old sprite-based style and the new style. It'd be kind of cool if they did something maybe along those lines of a fully fledged new Mario adventure or something in that style, where there's
yeah,
some cool lighting effects and maybe some glitchiness or some modern effects in there. It
yeah.
would be
Like
really
that's what,
cool.
like the game Cuphead I really want to play, because
Yeah,
it's like that.
definitely. I'm super
Uh,
hyped for that game.
yeah, isn't that like Xbox One exclusive though?
Yeah.
So that'll be the game that makes me pick up an Xbox
Yeah.
One finally. Because yeah, that game looks absolutely gorgeous, and yeah,
Yeah, it
Shovel Knight
does.
I've mentioned, and there's tons. I mean, Zero Drifter was a game I played where it was like this game flows and moves, and there's burst effects and there's things and stuff that would be impossible back in the day, but now they're just so cool
Yeah.
and they fit into that package and stuff. And yeah, it's weird also though, like we've mentioned, I think with some sort of previous podcast, I don't know what we did, where Nintendo is very much so in that mindset of pick up and play now, like with NES Remix, pick up, do a few levels, put it down.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if they would ever do something like that again, where it was a full-fledged, like kind of SNES style adventure. Would be really, really cool and stuff. And that's what I'm kind of missing from moving forward, like a Link to Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes and stuff. It's just like, I hope we get another kind of Oracle of Seasons, Ages, Link to the Past Zelda again, where it's that little Link sprite and stuff, but just really go all out with it and make it beautiful 3D. And I mean, like 3D as far as like the depth of it and stuff, but not but all pixel based. And I mean, just really go to town on it and do the cool effects and technologies, because I love that the top down view style.
Yeah.
And really I really think it makes for some unique puzzles that aren't available in the 3D version. But yeah, moving forward, so we kind of have those covered. Let's talk about the 3D Zeldas.
Okay.
So you and I are little tykes.
Yeah.
And we pick up Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
We drive on down. We're like, I don't know, probably like 9 and 5 years old. We drive on down to Best Buy, and you and I walk in, and I'm on your shoulders, and we're dressed in a trench coat.
I think we might have been a little bit older than that. I'm not sure, but
when did it come out? It came out in.
Did we get it though? Like right when it came out? I kind of doubt that we did.
I know. Well, I know we got Majora's Mask right around the time it came out. Because I remember, I remember going to the store and picking up Majora's Mask, and it was the gold copy, and it was just like.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if we got into Ocarina of Time like in the year or two before Majora's Mask came out, which I'm not sure if that's actually like when Ocarina came out.
Yeah, Majora's Mask came out like a year or two after. I think it came out a year after in Japan and 2 years after in America.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy to me to think that we were that age, and I guess maybe we were. It just seems we were kind of like I can just remember using the Game Shark on Ocarina of Time, getting all to the demo versions of it.
You destroyed my. I remember because I got to the very end of Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah, did I?
And I was fighting Ganondorf, and I couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
And I was trying, and I think
we all
Game
tried.
Shark.
I think a little bit.
I think you tried, and you used Game Shark, and you deleted my whole save file. And I remember like going into the kitchen. I think Mom and Dad were in there, and I was like crying, and I was like, "Guess what? Zach just destroyed my save file." And I was like trying to be like all cool and stuff, like, oh, guess what Zach did? Like trying to like keep it together, but I was like on the verge of like just losing it. And I'll never forget that. Like I know I led off with guess what, like trying to be cool, or I don't know what I was trying to do, but like
guess what?
I wanted to get you in trouble so badly because I was like, he just deleted my save. But yeah, man, that game was hard. I remember when we had because we had to have been little, because I remember like when we ordered, what was it, Swans?
The Schwans or something like that.
Swans or something, like mobile food or something, and like he'd always like drive by our neighborhood, and Dad would get us like a bunch of ice cream and pizza, and he like we were like friends with the Swans guy, and he would like come into the house and bring in the pizzas. And I remember one time he walked in and we were playing Ocarina of Time, and there was like the fire dragon, and he was like, "This guy took me like days to beat, like." Good luck, kids." He walked away, and I'm just like, all right, Swan's guy plays Zelda too. But yeah, no, we've already touched on like the revolution that Ocarina of Time was, and people have beat that to death. Like how insanely revolutionary that game is. It's the same as like Super Mario 64. It's the same as just all of those games and stuff, where it's just like, all right, we're moving into the 3D era, we're moving into something new, we're using the power that we have to do something that we've never been able to do before, and it's going to set the new standard. And looking back on it, like I've been playing, or I just beat somewhat recently, like within the past year, Ocarina of Time 3D.
Yeah.
My copy comes in the mail tomorrow. I borrowed your copy, and then when I was borrowing your copy, I was like, or no, I borrowed your copy because I was going to get it myself, and it was like $90 online for Zelda, and then the Nintendo Selects came out, and it brought it down to $20. but I don't want like the red banner around the cover because it's
Uh-huh.
like that's gross. Like it's
Yeah, we talked
gold and
about
it's
that.
beautiful, and so but now I think because of that, people are getting scared
Uh-huh.
and they're dropping the value down, and so. But so yeah, I have that coming tomorrow. I'm so excited to have my own case, and I can finally return yours to you. I just have your game. I don't think I have the case,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we've been playing that and stuff, and then
Mhm.
I've been playing Majora's Mask,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly what you would like to discuss with Ocarina of Time. Like it's definitely, I mean, no doubt in our minds. I think we both agree we're not like some sort of it's overrated. I mean, we definitely recognize that this game is important, and not only that is it important, but even without the cultural or the nostalgic lenses, it's still to this day a fun game to play. It flows, it plays well,
Mhm.
and same with Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask, I could do a whole podcast on. Majora's Mask
Yeah.
is, the whole hipster talk and stuff. Before everyone else thought Majora's Mask was cool. I mean, you can look back on my Twitter at Kaz Risk.
Mhm.
Before it was even announced, before there was the propaganda for it,
Yeah.
I was begging for it to be remastered.
Yeah, we both were. I think that
Yeah.
we've always, since the beginning, thought it was an amazing, like, creepy, like, one of the best Zelda games that there is. I think we
Mhm.
always kind of liked exploring it and a little more maybe than Ocarina of Time back in the day because
Mhm.
when it came out, we explored that game a ton and we loved the 3-day, like,
It was
how,
so hard.
yeah, it was. And just the exploring of it was awesome. I think that since we had Ocarina, and that was these like open world games were just kind of starting to come out with Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. So I think that part of the fun of it was not even just trying to beat the game, but just exploring the worlds and
Yeah.
just fighting enemies and seeing the town and how alive it felt and all like just picking up the dogs and trying to stab them with your sword and getting them to
Yeah.
chase after you and
Well, even like looking back on it now, like my big thing with it is the fact that I mean it's a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, which is just
yeah.
an insane thought. Like you have Ocarina of Time, which is like one of the most definitive games in history of like
Mhm.
this is it, you know,
Yeah.
and this is a sequel to it, and in a lot of ways improves on it in every way. And if you don't agree with that, or if you think it's equal or a little bit worse, it is really brilliant the way they handled the story,
Mhm.
where you end Ocarina of Time and you're the hero of time. Like we're not gonna like get to the details and stuff. I mean, looking back on it now, like yeah, you know, like Link is the hero of time. He's the hero. You win. You beat the game, and it's like so what happens? I mean, it's like the question that people like maybe not always have, but maybe should have is what happens after the hero saves the princess. You know, like in those classic fairy tales, and Majora's Mask sets out to answer that. And the cool thing about Majora's Mask is what people maybe not realize is that Link goes back in time and is a kid at the start of Majora's Mask. So this is Kid Link moving forward, and no one knows Kid Link. Like in Ocarina of Time, it was adult Link that did all the cool stuff. You know,
Mhm.
Kid Link is forget about him. Like he's just a little kid, and so Majora's Mask explores the idea of what happens when you're a hero but no one knows who you are, and he's just wandering through the woods, and then he becomes like not only is he like feeling like sad and it's a dark and dreary game and he's just with Epona and stuff, but then he gets turned into like the worst of the worst when he gets turned into a Deku shrub. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a brilliant tale and adventure
Yeah.
of a hero without any fame, without any recognition, and exploring these dark themes of grief and the end of the world and terror and fear
Yeah.
and loss. And I mean, it's such a mature game.
Mhm.
Combine that with the fact that it's building upon Ocarina of Time and bringing back so much nostalgia through that with
Mhm.
similar character models, and then combine that with the fact that it introduces a radical new game experience with the masks and transforming. Come on,
Yeah.
Majora's Mask
Yeah.
is. I don't know how people can hate that game, and there's a lot of people
Yeah.
out there, and
Yeah.
it's sad. But and then this will be your area of expertise. You have that whole story. You have Majora's Mask. You're saving the world 3 days. Fast forward beyond that, and you have the story of Twilight Princess, which
Yeah.
really I think well rounds out this trilogy and the
Mhm.
concept of what Ocarina of Time was, and the story of the hero of time, which kind of comes like wraps full circle with
Yeah.
Twilight Princess. And so you've been playing that a ton.
Yeah, I have.
Um,
Um,
Anything to share on that?
well, I kind of wanted to go back just a second, and
Oh
I
yeah, no
felt
problem.
like um, I'd be kind of hard on myself if I didn't bring up the fact that I think Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are both the games that I would highlight as um, having some of the best music in a video
Oh
game
yeah,
ever. And
Clocktown is my favorite song of all
yeah, I
time.
think Ocarina of Time, I think, is definitely overall as a soundtrack, just it's so timeless and iconic. And I definitely think like Clocktown is one of Mysterious Times or whatever is
Mm,
one of the best Zelda songs that there is. But I think that Ocarina of Time especially did something super special and set Zelda as a series, did something for Zelda as like a whole, where it really took the music to another level
hmm.
and did something really special and magical with that. And I just felt like I kind of we had to maybe at least for a second give
Oh yeah,
shout out to
definitely.
the
Well,
music
yeah,
of
shout out. I mean, we can maybe use this as a real quick like sidebar or whatever, just for the Zelda music as a whole, because Ocarina of Time definitely like definitively like probably the best music of a Zelda game. Um, and then Majora's Mask very much so plays on those themes, and
uh-huh.
so does Twilight Princess brings back a lot of those songs. So I
Yeah,
mean, Ocarina of Time at the end of the day. Wind Waker also once again kind of plays those themes, but
definitely.
Skyward
Well,
Sword was
and just
also.
kind of yeah, as I'm saying, like Ocarina of Time kind of brought that to our attention of
Mhm,
like making the music a part of the core experience, which I think that since moving on from Ocarina, I think they took that element and
mhm,
pushed it even further because I mean even into like A Link to the Past and even in the first games and stuff, we get some of those iconic Zelda songs and the music has always been really important to the games and I think really iconic and memorable and well written. Koji Kondo is like a brilliant composer, but I think with their idea in Ocarina of Time to, and I mean, it's even in the title being Ocarina of Time, being so
mhm,
focused around music, and then how successful that was. And then I think that that game and Zelda as a whole was a really huge factor in video game music blowing up, you know, on the
mhm.
internet in the early days of people listening to remixes of like Zelda songs and Mario songs and Mario and Zelda, I think their music has been probably arguably like the most influential video game music of all time. And so to actually make a game surround like revolving around your iconic memorable music like that and then to make such simple melodies that feel like they came out of like ancient times and
Yeah.
feel like just so timeless like they've been around forever and then to now in the games going forward whenever they introduce like an element like in Twilight Princess for example when you're kind of howling in the different pitches and blowing
Mhm.
into the reeds and stuff it's such a yeah
It's
it's such
always
a
like.
cool callback to the Ocarina days and it just feels so special and magical because you're kind of reminded of that and they just have this way of the melodies are really simple and beautiful and I just
Yeah.
think it's one of the best elements of Zelda and something that I'll always remember about the Zelda series that the songs are always getting in my head. I I think almost every day I throw on a Zelda song on my
Mhm.
playlist or something or go and listen to a Zelda song like that Spirit Tracks song from Smash Brothers is one of my favorite songs
Oh,
and
so good.
yeah. And so yeah, just the music had to get a shout out there before I kind of wanted to maybe throw it in between before we kind of moved on to the future of Zelda and the newer
Yeah,
games and all
yeah.
that.
Because I was
So,
also gonna say with like the music, because I was gonna talk really briefly about Skyward Sword, and Skyward
mhm.
Sword I've been very vocal about, and will probably maintain it unless they do a remaster without the motion controls. I don't like most of Skyward Sword. I think it was
Right.
kind of like I think a dud in the Zelda entry. That being said, I want to love it so much because I'm a big fan of the Zelda stories and how I love a Genesis story to Hyrule, which is what Skyward Sword is, and once again establishes lots of cool themes and stuff that resonates moving forward. And once again, we could do like a whole discussion on Skyward Sword and the the ideas and what it all means for the Zelda like world, like not like the gameplay or like the Zelda series and franchise, but like Hyrule.
Hmm.
And the two redeemable things of that game I thought were the story, and then the music was very much so like how do we. It seemed like almost like they had that same mindset of how do we integrate music into the gameplay, because yeah, like you don't really have that with Majora's Mask. Like you have the instruments and there's like the Song of Time and stuff, and then Twilight Princess has the howling. But I
Hmm.
mean, and Wind Waker just has like the composing and stuff, so they always integrate it. But it seemed like Skyward Sword even more so was like, how do we push the story forward with these songs,
Hmm.
and the musical and melody themes and stuff to really make you feel emotion moving forward. And it did a very good job at that. But yeah, we could I mean each one of these, especially the 3D entries. I think I mean not to like knock on the 2D entries, but the 3D entries especially, like each one has such an impact. You could get your whole like a whole podcast. We could do an Ocarina of Time episode. We could do a Majora's Mask episode. We could do
Yeah.
Twilight and Skyward and Wind Waker. I mean, Wind Waker. I have to. I mean, I say Majora's Mask is probably my favorite. Wind Waker though, I think it was at a time in my life when that was like the first Wii U game I had played,
Hmm.
and the Wii U I got after kind of being absent from Nintendo for a while.
Right.
Like I had sold my Wii and I dabbled with the 3DS, but that was mainly like my little Pokemon box. So the Wii U is like kind of like going back to like console gaming with Nintendo for the first time in a long time. And I had done New Super Mario Brothers U, but Zelda or Wind Waker
Yeah.
HD was like that first like, okay, we're gonna get back into it now. And I
Right.
remember playing it in my dorm, and I had a friend come over, and he would like just watch me play because he didn't have a Wii U, but he just wanted to see like how it was remastered and how it was. And we just laughed so much at like Toon expressions, and it was also once again, because it serves as a sequel to Ocarina of Time as well in a split universe. It does such a good job at being like, all right, this is following the story of Ocarina of Time that people know and love. What happens if this happens? Like I think it's if Link, um, if you're the hero of time but you stay as an adult or something, is what Wind Waker is,
Yeah.
according to the Zelda timeline. And it's like, what happens when you save the world and stuff, and what happens after that? And it explores the concept of just like the what happens when it seems like miracles or gods or the kind of supernatural stuff happened in the past but not anymore. And we have that here on earth and stuff. Like you read all these old texts, like you have the Bible and the Quran and the Torah and stuff. People are always like, oh, all that stuff is back in the past. And it seems like Wind Waker tackles like a very realistic concept of what happens when the hero of time is a story of the past, because
Right.
the beginning of Wind Waker is the story of the hero of time. And such a
Yeah.
cool thought and very a realistic, relatable story to be like
Yeah. And
the
even
world.
essentially the world as it was once known is completely gone. So,
Yeah, and so it's such a cool thing to be like you're basically exploring and sailing across the world, but underneath it all is the legacy of Ocarina of Time,
hmm.
and very symbolic in so many different ways. And um, it's weird that like such a deep and profound story and idea is enveloped in the package of a very kiddie like silly expression, Toon Link, and art style.
Hmm.
But especially on the Wii U remastered, it works so well, and so I
Definitely.
had to give a shout out to that. But yeah, moving forward to end out the podcast in the final 5 or 10 minutes that we have here, some Zelda U, Zelda NX, Zelda 2016 speculation, discussion. We had some rumors this week that you may be able to choose the gender of Link. We've had discussion in the past that Zelda Wii U or Zelda NX will be very Western appeal, probably taking inspirations from Far Cry. We've had discussion that it'll be side quests will be a lot like a big thing, a big driving force. That the puzzles of the world will be integrated into the whole world, so it'll be like, how do you start? I mean, just entering the dungeon will be a puzzle in itself. So we have actually quite a bit of details on what this game's going to be shaping up to be. But do you have any sort of maybe wishes, maybe fears, or speculation, or what you think is going to be? Just kind of tackling all that moving forward.
Hmm. Uh, all I know is that I think that they are going to do it right. I think that the delay has been a good idea. I don't think
Hmm.
they should have rushed it at all. So I think that I really have faith that they were smart about it in their thinking of like we need to take some extra time and make sure we're getting it all right and ready to go and so in that area, I don't know. I have, and especially playing through Twilight Princess HD and stuff, it just makes me think like I think they're so good at it, and I have full faith. I don't think that they've really ever screwed it up. And you say kind of I've never really played Skyward. I haven't made it there yet.
Yeah.
It seems like it's essentially a Zelda game. Just the
The
controls
controls
are
are my only complaint with Skyward, because there's people out there that complain about Skyward for a lot of reasons.
right.
A lot of people didn't like the story. They didn't like Fee, who was the companion. Then
Yeah.
again, a lot of people don't like Navi.
But and do
And
people like Midna, or is Midna like universally accepted or something? Because
I
I
think
remember,
Midna's like looking. I think people have a little bit of a lens of nostalgia with Midna or something. I think
yeah,
people have grown to love her. I don't think they liked her at first,
yeah, because
and
I didn't like her at first, and I still am like I like playing my Zelda games kind of solo,
mm,
and even like Navi and stuff, I felt was I didn't feel as a companion through my game necessarily. I didn't feel like it was a weighted like figure with me. It felt more as a I feel like Midna, as I've played like deeper into Twilight, because all my experiences before I'd maybe not got as farther in, um, and in the beginning of the game, the whole kind of tutorial section, you're kind of being lugged around by Midna
mm.
in a way, and it seems less of like the fairy companion aspect. But then once you're kind of in the game, Midna
She's
goes into
rude
your
too.
goes in yeah, and when she kind of goes into your shadow and stuff and becomes more of the just press R to bring her up and talk to her for a second, it becomes a lot less intrusive on the
Mm.
experience. Um, and so yeah, that I don't know, that doesn't
Yeah, I
really
mean, Navi was always, yeah, hey, listen, hey, 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 like it's just
yeah,
like, all right, we get it, Navi.
right,
And
definitely.
Minno, or no, Fee from or Phi, people call her different things. I don't know if it
Yeah.
actually, if we've confirmed her name or whatever. I always called it um, um, what was it, Epona,
Oh yeah.
and then people say it's Epona, and I'm like, what in the world? I guess
Epona.
that makes sense, like pony, Epona,
Yeah.
but I always called it
Yeah, but
Epona.
Epona, it's you're basically saying the same thing, only you're saying it a little quicker without saying Epon. Like
Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
you're
And
just yeah.
I always called him Lank too, and people were like, it's Link, and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, Link.
Lank and Zelda.
Yeah.
but no, if Phi or Fee has a dialect that's very calculatory, very robotic, very
Oh yeah.
computer generated, almost like it's like I have a 90% speculation that this door will be leading to the
Oh, is it
dungeon's
is it all
boss.
voice acted?
No, but it's like
Oh, I
very
see.
like it's very like yeah, nah, 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 like very actually Midna kind of,
Uh-huh.
but very like very robotic, very and like the just the word choice is very like I have a 25% calculation that your health is too low or something, like just really weird like ways of saying it.
Yeah.
And I think it's supposed to kind of be like we've talked about how Skyward Sword is the Genesis story.
Hmm.
I think it's kind of a reference to that whole theory and stuff of like like some prior to whatever Hyrule was and prior to this the origin of this world was a race of gods or something that were very much so intelligent, and
Yeah.
she's kind of a part of that, like that kind
Hmm.
of
Right.
higher than earth knowledge, which
Yeah.
makes sense, I think, but I think people didn't like it.
Hmm.
And the other complaint I've heard with Skyward Sword is that it is very linear based compared to
Yeah.
traditional Zelda games.
Oh.
There's holes in the sky that you go through, and that's the place you go to. Which, once
Mm.
again, though, I mean, I think even though Ocarina of Time is open, and even though Twilight Princess is open, and you can explore, and we've talked about how Zelda's an open world game at its heart. Um, it is every Zelda game at the end of the day is very linear.
Yeah.
Go to this dungeon, go to this dungeon, go to that dungeon.
Yeah.
Besides the Link Between Worlds, which shook things up for good or for bad. And once again, people complained about how open that game is. It's
Uh-huh.
too open. So yeah, I think the
But
only valid complaint against Skyward Sword is the
Mhm.
motion controls, which
right.
just because they're so forced.
Because I was gonna ask, is the length of Skyward Sword is average of all
Yeah,
Zeldas,
no,
isn't it?
I mean it was. I mean, I loved the story. Like that
Yeah.
was. I mean, I stuck with it because I wanted to know
So,
more.
so that's why I'm saying with my hopes, I guess, for Zelda Wii U and stuff. I figure they have completely ditched the motion controls. We've even seen that from their demonstration of like at the Game Awards or whatever they did, where Miyamoto and them were watching. I don't know if he was with Iwata at the time or who was. Oh, he was probably with Enuma at when
Mhm.
they were playing that, and they're just playing it traditionally, and so since the controls are all very traditional and it looks like it's going back to the kind of Twilight Princess Ocarina style of gameplay,
Mhm.
only just super improving it. Like
Seems like
my
it's Wind Waker HD.
right,
From
and
it's
my
my guess.
one of my big complaints, I guess I should mention it with Twilight Princess HD was, and it hasn't really been used that much. It seems like it might be used more with Zelda Wii U, is the Epina writing, and how there's
Oh
a big
yeah.
segment in Twilight Princess where there's kind of a level where you're escorting to back to Kakariko Village or whatever, and you have to like go through the night, and then the birds are like dropping bombs on this carriage and stuff, and so you have to be like really maneuvering your horse well. And some I thought it was a little bit wonky, and some of the ledges and stuff like that you should be able to jump over didn't act like they were ledges and stuff like that. So I was really happy to see that they've just taken the experience and tried to make little tweaks to improve like the Epina riding where you automatically avoid trees
Well,
and
he wasn't even. I don't think he was even using the controls. I think Epino was just riding until he
yeah,
like gave a
yeah,
direction.
it was kind of like I guess Witcher 3, I guess you could use as an
Yeah.
example where you can kind of just have your horse go along the trail and he'll just ride. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Roach will just go.
Yeah.
But even Roach though from Witcher 3, he runs into trees.
Yeah, that's true.
So Epona already has a leg up on the Witcher
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Because as I think Ayanuma said, horses don't normally run into trees.
Yeah.
Like,
And I also felt like Zelda Wii U kind of already we kind of see it has a bit of it's a bit more cartoony and a bit more Skyward Swordish than Witcher 3, but it kind of has that cool like uh, a little more saturated fantasy kind of
mhm.
look along the lines a bit of like a Witcher 3 or something like that, which I really like, and I'm just super excited for it. I
We've
really
seen
have
so
like
little of it. Like,
I have like no doubt that it's gonna be just absolutely incredible. From the moment we saw them like snap their fingers and there it was, it was just I'm ready for this
yeah,
game. And
I
whenever
think.
it comes out, take your time. Make it come
Yeah,
out for
definitely no
NX.
rush. I mean,
I want it on the NX. That's what I'm getting my copy for. I'm not gonna because now
I
that
may get it for
NX is
both. I may
yeah,
just to have both boxes and to I don't know maybe
yeah.
compare them or play them both. I don't know. I may get them both or something. I mean, it'll be
Yeah, I've done that for
interesting.
some games like Grand Theft Auto. I have like 3 versions of and
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same with like The Last of Us and Uncharted. I have like
yeah.
PS3 and PS4 and I mean we did the same thing with Smash and stuff, although that's a little bit different.
But do you have like any concerns about the upcoming Zelda Wii U? Because like really, I honestly can't think of
Yeah,
any concerns I really
my
have.
theory is that it's a sequel to Skyward Sword.
Hmm.
That's my first theory and stuff, and I won't spoil Skyward Sword, but that's my theory is that it's still. I think it's I mean, that is to say, I think it's before Ocarina of Time. I think it's gonna be like a very early on Hyrule and stuff and establishing things.
Yeah.
My other theory is that, and this is based purely basically like on no spoilers. I think it's gonna have Majora's Mask somewhere in there, and I think I'm gonna be proven wrong, but I'm saying it now so I can be like I said it. I think Majora's Mask will be in there somewhere
Yeah.
because they talk about Majora's Mask how it's like an ancient thing,
Uh huh.
how it was used for tribal trickery, and that people were like all trickerying in tribes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen of Zelda U seems to be very open and lots of side quests and probably going to be somewhat tribal in nature. We've seen like
Well,
analysis of that.
yeah. Some of the garb it seems almost is a little
Yeah,
skull kiddish or something a bit like where there's a
yeah.
lot of like dangling like strings and
Hmm.
fabrics and stuff hanging off your clothes and stuff. So maybe it's kind of I don't know.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if we had some sort of callback or
Yeah.
reference to that, like maybe even like whatever Majora is, because Majora's Mask is assumed to be a dead version of Majora. because like the Deku shrub is a dead version of the Deku kid that you see, and like everything in the game that has a mask, I think for the most part is confirmed to have been from some sort of dead
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And so Majora then is assumed to have been a previous beast or monster or god or deity that died. And so I think maybe we'll actually see Majora as a boss or as the main boss or as some sort of villain or form. I think we'll see that in Zelda U. And no, I don't have any concerns. I do hope, I guess to touch on the previous rumor, I do hope we have a character, not necessarily creation, but maybe similar to along the lines of Fire Emblem, where you can pick your character, maybe like kind of face or gender at least. I wrote an article about it with my IGN blog, and it got featured by IGN and got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. A lot of people thought I was trying to push some sort of political agenda with making Link a girl. And it's like, no, I just think that in my mind, Link has always been an avatar, and a literal link between us and Hyrule. And a lot of people disagree, and I think maybe you were someone that disagreed with the whole concept of no, Link is Link. I mean, like I name Link Kasdan every time I play.
Yeah, me too. I name him Zach. So
yeah, and I view him as me.
Right.
And
yeah, me too.
And so it'd be nice to maybe like have a skin tone adjustment and a gender pick, and and it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, my argument was more a little bit different, I think, than those reasons, but
yeah, okay. But I'm just saying, like, it would change.
I totally agree with you on all of your points. My only thing was that it's a bit like making a Mario game and having you be able to like remove his mustache, change him to female, and kind of customize him and change his name. I feel like since he's like in Smash Bros, he's established as like a Nintendo icon, that he has been created as a character, and he is Link. And you can't really, at this point, I feel like maybe reinventing him is maybe a little weird and just like unnecessary. But I don't know. I think Linkle, they should do something like that if they do it, where it's like a very just direct, like it's still Link and the main one is Link, or we just introduce Linkle as the female version of Link or something like that, so that it's not taking away Link's identity, because I just feel like he's a character and he should be somewhat maybe respected as an icon of Nintendo that doesn't need to maybe be manipulated and changed in that way. But I do totally agree that I think that, you know, for females and stuff playing the game, which there's a lot of female Zelda fans, they should be able to not feel excluded in that way. So
especially when the game is so based on immersing you in your journey, because that's my counter to the Mario thing. It's like Mario isn't your journey, and Mario is Mario. Like, he has a relationship with Peach, and he has a brother Luigi, but Link is ever-changing hero of time and stuff.
Yeah, they inherently let you change your name as Link, and they don't, like, you don't have a name selection and type your name as Mario.
I mean, like the whole Smash thing is like we also have Robin in Smash, but Robin can change back and forth. Or same with Corrin.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Kind of, I guess I think that they should definitely do like a Linkle kind of thing with that, where it's
my only thing with Linkle's is different from Link, like in Hyrule Warriors.
I'm sure I understand that it's actually a different character and has a whole different thing, but I do think that they should have done it. I think maybe in that way. And named Linkle the female version, and maybe made the Linkle in Hyrule Legends like a different character, a different name or something like that. But yeah, even if they do, I'm not gung-ho about I don't really care either way. So it's like,
because my big thing is just like, I mean, because at the end of the day, I don't care because I already have Link as a man, so it's more immersive for me. But like, I mean, I like playing with a character as close to me as possible. Like when there's a character creator, I like to make it look like me, and I like to do that, and I like to change the name to me, and I like to role play in that. And especially with a game like I mentioned, like Zelda, which really prides itself on making this your story and your adventure, I feel like that should be an option in there. But I've also heard people say, well, if you want to have it be a female Link, why don't they just go completely like that? I'm like, because that's not my point. I'm not pushing this for the sake of a female Link. I'm pushing this for the sake of immersive, customizable character, because Link seems to be establishing himself as that, or itself as that, as an avatar, and less as Link. He is a hero of time. It is, I mean,
Yeah.
so that was kind of my argument. So I hope that rumor does turn out to be true. As
Hmm.
far as any other concerns, I mean, my only concern is that it will be. My biggest concern actually probably is that it'll be um, still a little too far behind the times. And what I mean by that is you have The Witcher 3, you have Fallout 4, you have Far Cry Primal, and these games excel at puzzle solving, at story, at open world, at combat, at everything, even at music,
Hmm.
And my fear is that Zelda U will come out or Zelda NX will come out, and it'll be compared to these other games a very lackluster open world,
Yeah.
a very lackluster story. It'll be
Yeah. Well,
pushing out the same thing, and like I'll play it and I'll love it because it'll be Zelda.
yeah.
But my fear is that it'll kind of be like that will be the only appeal is that
Yeah.
it's a Zelda game.
My counter to that is that playing Twilight Princess HD right now, and maybe I haven't played. I mean, I've played through Skyrim and a majority of Fallout 4, and I played through
Mhm.
all of Fallout 3, and I played a lot of Witcher 3, and um, my experience with Twilight Princess is that I really feel like maybe some of the graphics have been dated, but gameplay wise, I still find it. I really don't feel like it's really dated at all, especially with bringing it up to the HD, and
Mhm.
even when I had played Wind Waker HD. I just don't feel. I feel like the compared to those games, Zelda has they're masters at making games. It's like getting a Mario game, a 3D Mario 3D World, I'd say, and saying, there's tons of great platforming games out there, and I guess platforming has died down a little
I was gonna
compared to
say I don't know if
open
there
world
are.
games. Well, I think that Witcher 3 and even Zelda and Fallout, or I mean Skyrim and Fallout are different types of games than Zelda is,
That's
and
true. Yeah.
that playing Twilight Princess, I don't feel like I'm getting an experience like Witcher 3 and those games. I feel like it's way more clever in a Nintendo kind of way, and the puzzles are way. Um, I find in games like Fallout and super open world games that sometimes the puzzles are a little more simple and not as
Hmm.
thought out and focused, and actually the whole entire dungeon kind of built around using these tools and elements that you find throughout the dungeon and stuff like that. When they're in open world, it's kind of a little stripped down and basic and more about the story and doing fetch
Hmm.
quests and things like that. And I feel like the Wii U one might take those elements of an open world but making it a Zelda game and will still feel super fresh, because if it's like Twilight Princess, only beautiful like we've seen in the previews where, it's all the blades of grass and everything. I
Yeah.
just feel it's going
So
to
good.
be the next level of Zelda and just as timeless and as engrossing as, Ocarina of Time still is today, and Majora's Mask Remastered still is when you play it on the 3DS, and Twilight Princess coming out is still a joy to play. And I think that they really do a great job at creating these timeless games that are just that don't feel very dated. Sometimes they get dated graphic wise and stuff, but at their core, gameplay wise, they're your first time through especially. It seems like even a game like A Link Between Worlds, where it's arguably an easier experience, some people say, than like the 3D ones or even A Link to the Past and stuff, where it was maybe a little more oriented towards children. It still was had some challenge there and was fun, and I would like to maybe play it again someday. So I just feel like I don't know if really that I'm sure that people will be comparing it to that, like the those who are Sony fanboys and
Yeah.
Microsoft fan people that hate on
Yeah.
Nintendo often, or like try to find those excuses to hate on a new game or aren't fully understanding, or maybe some of their complaints will be valid about ways
Yeah.
that those games do some things better. I'm sure they will do some things better, but I just have
But Zelda U will do something better. Like
right.
it'll do what it's best at, and it'll.
I feel like nobody really does like Zelda. So,
Hmm.
and they can do their thing like them. Like I feel like Fallout, making Fallout is Fallout. And it's like you can't really get that from the rip-off games that are trying to maybe do a post-apocalyptic open world kind of thing. They're
Hmm.
not as good as that. And the ones that maybe try to do the Witcher thing, they're not as good at the high fantasy and the crazy like detective kind of solving the mystery of it and
Hmm.
the Bloodborne born Dark Souls kind of thing with the super challenging bosses. I feel like just they have their niches and um
In Zelda, yeah, and
yeah.
Zelda's the puzzle dungeon, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely. That does alleviate my concern, and I think, yeah, it'll definitely stand on its own. Especially, I mean, my other concern is that somehow the rumors are false and it doesn't launch on the NX.
Yeah.
It needs to be an NX launch title,
Definitely.
and that way, I mean, it'll be cool to see, assuming that the NX is going to get lots of third party support with its higher graphic fidelity and easier to design for, like, because it sounds like it's kind of getting that computer infrastructure. It'll be cool to see Zelda NX alongside Shadow of Mordor 2 and um,
Yeah.
Tomb Raider, like Rise of the Tomb Raider,
Hmm.
2016 edition and stuff like that. Like, it'll be cool to see. I think Zelda NX will stand on its own alongside all of those, and so
Yeah.
I can't wait. Hopefully, we get more details soon.
I think we will very
I'm
soon.
still holding out for an NX announcement by the end of April.
That'd be awesome.
Um, I think
I'm doubting it, but
I'm sticking with it. I'm calling it now. People can. I mean, we're recording this on April 10th, and
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
so if, I mean, just in case like they say something and people are like, you
That'd be
just set it up.
crazy. I hope so. I hope you're right, but
Yeah,
I
I think
doubt
they're
it.
gonna do. That's my prediction. Is Nintendo NX like special announcement in April? More details at E3, and then May maybe we'll have like another like pre E3 direct. But I think May will be relatively quiet, and then E3, kaboom! Because they maybe like this they have the NX so that we'll get more, like, maybe they won't show off the console and they'll save that for E3. But I think they're gonna announce it officially in
Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks, we'll know what the NX is.
I say no.
Okay. I do. I mean, if it's not April, I do stand by before E3. We had a discussion on that over on Koppai episode 17. I'm sticking
Yeah.
with still. We'll know what the NX is. Like, Nintendo will talk about it officially and vocally before E3.
Hmm.
I'm saying April to be bold, and I'm going to stick with it because I can't be like wishy-washy on it. Like, I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
But if not April, still at least definitively before E3.
And I think my position was that I was really torn between like a week before E3, kind of doing almost like a Fallout 4 kind of thing where they announce it and then they actually do like at the conference. And then I think that you were kind of forcing me to pick a no, you can't do that. You can't say a week before or and so I
You
was
can do a
just
week before.
I no
You
I
can do whatever you want.
you said I had to do either or, and I said I think I'm gonna stick with I think E3 is what I'm. But I was throwing I'm really leaning more towards that they're just gonna wait until E3. But I think that if they were to announce it, it would be like really up close to E3, like the week before, or like just saying everybody get ready. Yes, we are. They finally like break the silence and say we are going to talk about the NX at E3.
Or they'll
Get
just have like an
ready,
image of
everybody.
like the Nintendo Treehouse logo and like the stream times, and then just hashtag X gonna give it to you.
Yeah, something like that.
If
I
they
hope
use
they.
any sort of hashtag X gonna give it to you for the promotional stuff for E3, I'm gonna poop my pants.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, you'll just look at my jeans and it'll just poof. Oh man, it'll be breaking out of my little denim barrier. But anyway, thank
Anyway,
you so much for listening to the second Patreon exclusive episode of Koppai Podcast. Thank you so much for supporting us at whatever level you ended up supporting us, whether it was 99 cents or maybe you're up at I think we have like $1,000 as our highest thing, which no one will ever give us that. But yeah, thank you so much. We've been getting more support and through Patreon, through Twitter followers, through people listening. And so hopefully this podcast is being able to be heard by several people. Spread the word about this. If you are a new supporter on Patreon, be sure to head over to the other Patreon exclusive episode that we had for the month of March, which is about the Pokemon 20th anniversary, where we talk about kind of a very similar format where we talked about our look back on the Pokemon games, our favorite memories, our favorite Pokemon experience, and then we also speculated about Pokemon Sun and Moon. We don't know what we're going to do for the month of May. The month of June will probably be some sort of NX discussion, or hopefully E3 like review of some sort.
Yeah.
And then we'll just moving forward. We don't have them pre-decided. I like this format of maybe just picking a franchise and talking about it for an hour. It just seems kind of cool and timeless because people can listen to that really whenever. I think we may also have to make May. We may have to dust off and play Earthbound because there's lots of speculation that Earthbound 3 will be announced relatively soon. And released alongside the announcement, or Mother 3. My apologies, if I didn't say that. I think I said Earthbound 3, and so we may have to sit down and both of us may have to do our homework and play through the Earthbound games because we have Earthbound Beginning, Earthbound, and then it'll be assuming some sort of Earthbound 3 of some sort, and we'll have to play through those. Maybe do a discussion on that because that's once again another anniversary, I believe, and so. We don't know. Leave your comments down below. This would suggest we were probably going to do a Zelda discussion anyway because you've been playing up to Twilight and we've been playing through those and the Zelda U hype is strong. But this was suggested by Charlie over on our Patreon. So shout out to him and thank you for supporting us. And I think that's all we have to say. Sorry we went over, but you paid $1 for this, so yay. I mean,
Yahoo!
Yeah, be sure to check out episode 17. Be sure to check out all the other content we have and our snippets and share us to win an NX and the Amiibo. We'll be back next month with another exclusive episode. Once again, probably in the middle of the month or early, like either the first half of the month we'll release the episode. But until next time,
Nice. Oh man.
Another one done.
Yep.
Not bad too. Good episode.
Yeah, good episode.
Gibbity-bibbity.
Alright, I gotta get this headset off me.
Yep, me too. I'm gonna go play. I was gonna go play more Triforce Heroes, but
Triforce Heroes.
I want to play more Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem's so good.
I want
It's
to play
so
more Twilight.
good.
I'm kind of confused in my Twilight right now, but I'm like running around like, where is this dude I'm supposed to find? I hate that when I get that way in Zelda games where I'm like, all right, now I'm seriously like, crap. What am I supposed to do? Where's that one spot?
Yeah, I'm in Fire Emblem right now, and I think I told you about my story about Awakening, where I let everyone die.
Yeah.
And how this time I'm trying to build relationships, and it's just so cool. I had no idea you could get married.
Wow.
And so like I'm getting getting characters married and stuff, and it's just like an element to Awakening I completely missed, like, and wish they would have been more forthright about. But it just adds a whole new level to the game. That's just like, all right, cool. Like, I mean, it seems so like missable. Like you may just not be able to know, and I think they should be more like upfront about it. So make sure when you play, you really focus on the support thing and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I'm heading off.
All right, cool. Yeah, send me the episode, and I gotta get to a lot of editing now.
Yeah. All right, I will.